Well, hello and good day, everybody. Thanks for stopping by the Roots and Reason podcast. Uh, my name is Preston. I'll be your host today. I just wanted to, first of all, I'm hopping on for the first time to try out Kick. This is my debut on Kickstream, I guess. Apparently, this is a Twitch like scenario. Um, this will be a little bit new to me. And again, pardon the boomer kind of stuff, but as I kind of go through and add another layer of complexity to this multi-streaming thing. But anyway, I wanted to hop on just a little bit today and kind of go back over a little bit of news. Thankfully, nothing specific is really kind of went nuts. And I'm so happy for that. Sometimes it's just you're happy just to have a boring kind of day. Anyway, let me go ahead and get some stuff pulled up here and let's go see what is really going on these days. What we got here. Let's see. And let me see where we want to go ahead and start this. All right, how about here? I'm going to share with you just a basic quote. We're going to start the day from here. So let's go take a peek at this. Ah, man, this is terrible. It's like my stream's to the left. Let me go ahead and move me over here for now. And anyway, again, kind of holding true with the whole kind of roots and reason thing. Apparently, allegedly, Aristotle had this quote said that it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought or an idea without accepting it. It's attributed to Aristotle. Um, but to be quite honest, I've seen a lot of people out there say, no, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. Personally, don't really care. Don't care who said it. It could have been a clerk down at the dollar store. It holds true. Um, why is it so hard in modern times to be able to listen to other people's ideas without just literally comporting yourself into the tribal kind of stuff? I don't know. But anyway, to the Google AI kind of a thing, it goes into some elaboration over. Generally speaking, it's kind of embodiment of intellectual curiosity, critical thinking, open mindedness, diligence, and deliberation. Regardless where it came from, it is important that we actually listen to other things, regardless of how we feel about it. You know, one of the old things, I mean, I grew up on Aesop's Fables as a kid. Uh, Not to mention a lot of other parables and metaphors and things. I mean, that was a big thing in my time. One of them is, before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. Maybe that's something more people have heard of. Don't know, but yeah, let's try doing that. Um, Before we just go out and hurl the insults and get into it deep. And trust me, I'm more than happy to get in the ring and duke it out with a lot of people. I'm pretty hard headed when it comes to that. I'm stubborn as hell. Love to argue and debate these kinds of things. And again, I'm no huge intellectual academic. I'm an average person that's accumulated knowledge through the mere existence of existence. You see things so many times. Some people get jaded, some people get cynical, whatever. But so we'll keep that in mind. But anyway, moving right along. And speaking of that, I wanted to go to this bit. I don't know why this bothers me so much. This guy, some lunatic out there, he goes into Colorado, and these people were having. It wasn't even a protest. It was a march, and they happen to be Jewish, and they're out there marching for basically recognition or memorializing hostages and this sort. They weren't harming anybody. They're just a bunch of people walking there trying to keep their issue at the top of the page, reminding people, hey. Um, so this lunatic comes out of the nowhere. I'm trying to think of what his name was. Uh, where is it? Mohammed Sabri Solomon, 45 years old. Apparently, he had been spending a year going to target these people. He throws Molotov cocktails at them, sets these people on fire, for God's sakes. How depraved and disgusting do you have to be able to do that? I certainly got issues with the Israeli government, but you can't hold that to account for just Jews or even Zionists. These people are just wanting the freedom for their own hostages. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with any American going out there and expressing their views. And this lunatic here, and share it here, he's unapologetic. He's been planning it for years. And then come to find out, he had some kind of an issue, possibly with his immigration status. And from what I gather, the government's going to deport not just, well, I don't know, but deport him. They're going to treat him like a terrorist, but they're going to deport his entire family. Well, congratulations, pal. I mean, was your family trying to come to America and assimilate here, live a good life in America? I don't know. Maybe they're all radical. Probably not, though. But then again, I don't really know. But I mean, what kind of a sick person sets another human being on fire to make a point? This is not the Middle East. This is not Ukraine. This is not Myanmar. This isn't Bolivia or Nicaragua. We don't got death squads running around. Um, there's a lot of opportunities for this person to have their voice heard and make their say known. But just, I'm sorry, I absolutely condemn this, and it's just absolutely disgusting and vile. And it just has to be said. I hope they throw the book at this guy and he never sees the light of day again. No society is in a better place because of people like this. And if your brain rot gets to that kind of a level, that you feel that you need to harm others to prove a point, even kids, for God's sakes, kids, man, set them on fire. What the hell is wrong with you? I don't know. This really, really turns my stomach. Anyway, moving right along. Recently, in fact, let me go ahead here. Let me just pull myself out of this. We don't need to see my ugly mug. As we all know, I mentioned the last stream that we had. Ukraine pulled off, quite literally, I don't care who you are or what side you're on, a daring operation. There's no doubt about it. These people built compartments in the top of semi-truck trailers and launched these small drones that are commonly used in the Ukraine-Russian war. And they went as far as Siberia. They went deep into Russian territory, thousands of miles deep. Russia's got a huge border. I mean, they can't protect everything. Even the United States, Israel, European Union, other places are taking notice. Holy hell. Look how this audacious thing, how vulnerable are we? But anyway, Russia's got all these bombers sitting out there. And this is part of this is a little bit holdover from the SALT stuff. Even though they retracted from it, as did the United States, they're not adherent for them. But the purpose for them being out on our runways, generally speaking, was it would allow adversarial satellites, in our case, the United States, to be able to look down and say, okay, there's where all the T-55 bombers are. Make sure they don't have nukes slung under the bottom of the wing, that kind of a thing. We wanted to make sure that's like, hey, here's my tattoo, show me yours, and everybody was kind of groovy. It's kind of a verification thing. Russians did the same thing to us. Well, during the Biden administration, apparently this operation took something like 18 months. Let me go ahead in this next feed. And let me go ahead and put this one on here. Okay, cool. It's actually showing it. And you can kind of see the kind of drone footage. And by the way, it is one thing that is a little bit laughable. These TU, I believe it's the TU-95s, the backfire bombers or something like that. No, they seem to be the Bears or something. Anyway, these are like, they were designed back in the 50s. And they're kind of the Russian version of the B-52. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to diminish this. It's part of the strategic arsenal of Russia, although they're much more heavily reliant nowadays on things like submarines, as we are. Um, nope, submarines and ballistic missiles. Bombers just aren't quite used that much. The United States did do the B-2 bombers. And there's a particular class, and I didn't look it up before this. I should have, so admonish me on chat if you wish. This is all technology from the 50s. A lot of this stuff's getting phased out. I believe it's the Tu-22M3, which might be the backfire bomber, which is used much more. Because if I'm not mistaken, it's a Mach capable jet, possibly upward near Mach 2. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But here nor there, it was a daring operation. They pulled it off, and it's extremely embarrassing to the Russians, man. They just got their face pushed in, man. It was a, and really what this amounts to is a lot. It's a PR coup. There is absolutely no doubt about it. If we want to go ahead and just look, let me go back here, and we can just kind of see the news on this stuff. Let's just go ahead and pull up news. As we can kind of see here, everybody's on and on about how just amazing this thing was, and oh, it's a major blow. For 3 years, we've been hearing about how the Russians are pulling chips out of washing machines so they could build missiles. Apparently, their washing machines are that good. But anyway, a lot of this, honestly, again, not to diminish what Ukraine did, because it was bold and quite successful. Very embarrassing to the Russians, man. They got hammered, man. There's no joke about it. Even outside of this, effectiveness of this particular piece of hardware that they specifically really laid into pretty hard. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Let me see if I can get some sound on this one. I don't think. Nope, don't have any sound on it, which is fine. Okay. Is it going to change the war, though? Is this going to have any real effect on what's going to happen in the Ukrainian-Russian war? Me? I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. Keep in mind, everything that we're seeing here in a kind of a darker, rosier red, this is all territory gained. And no, I don't want to see the satellite map on here. Let's go. When we look at the size of Russia, one of the attacks happened up here. Let me make sure that this is actually coming through. Yeah. One of the attacks happened up here near Finland. One of the attacks was like way out here, like north of Lake Vladivostok. And then there were a couple of more localized attacks that took place. Now, any of you people that have ever studied anything about World War II or just have even the remotest clue of what took place during World War II, the Russians are a different kind of people. Um, the casualty rate of Russians compared to almost any other army, including the Germans, is insanely off the charts, man. It's nuts. Um, and they prevailed. You know, we've all seen the movie The Enemy at the Gates with I forget the guy from AI, Mr. Good Looking thing there. And there's the old story of the Russians would send out two soldiers, one with a gun, one with a spare clip of ammo. When the guy in front of him died, he'd pick up the gun and continue marching forward. Whether or not any of that's true, don't know, don't care. But it does kind of encapsulate the attitude of Russians. And again, doesn't matter whether you agree with these people, you tend to lean on this side, that side. That is not the point. It is absolutely not the point. When we look at Russia for 3 years, has pounded the Ukrainian front lines. And it started out to be roughly a 2-1, 3-1 ratio in favor of Russians, just simply because they had much more arms, even with the United States, Europe, and everybody kind of backing them up. 3 years later, I think it was the New York Times, maybe it was Rand Corporation, who it could have been the study for the Middle East. It's one of those think tank kind of things where you find a lot of the neoconservative types. Study of Middle Eastern, whatever. They're pointing out that quite literally at this point, we're looking at 8, 10, 12 to 1 in favor of Russians. It's just the Ukrainians are kind of spent. That's not to take anything away from the Ukrainians. Holy shit, we talk about some tough people. My God, these people are tough as nails, man. They're taking that on the chin, and yet they're still out there fighting. So it's no joke. That's a daily pounding, and it hasn't really so far changed the will. Now, a lot of debate out there. The people on the front lines probably going to have one attitude compared to Zelensky, who's casually back here in Kiev begging every European and Western country for any nickel that he can get his hands on. He hasn't really had to live at the front war. The guy's an entertainer. We all know how he got his claim to fame. The war's a different thing for him, as it often is in any modern war. The people who start and do wars, it's far different than the people on it. But the point being, after the pounding Ukraine has taken for 3 years, they just kind of walked away from the Istanbul talks just the other day. Let's come down here. It's going to allow me to take it. And down here in Istanbul, the Russians and the Ukrainians got together, and the Ukrainians are defiant. And the Russians are immovable. After 3 years of this level, of this much territory, probably a segment of land about the size of California and Texas combined, roughly, maybe not quite that much, but near that much, they're still defiant. So if they can take a pounding like that, what effect do you think one strike on a couple of airfields in Russia is going to have on the Russian people? I mean, Russia spans something like 11, 12 time zones. And there are people here from all different cultures. That's probably, part of the problems of the Russians. I mean, it's literally like 8 countries just loosely held together. But the war that we're dealing with is on the border of, obviously, Europe. Does anybody truly think that this last raid and what took place is going to have any influence on the war after what Russia's already invested, something like 50, 60,000 people? not to mention how much money. No, it just isn't. It's just not. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a kind of look at this other video. This one's a little bit better. This is pretty badass, ain't gonna lie. Do we have audio on this one? Yeah, we might.
Web and said they caused considerable damage, which it estimated at $7 billion. A Ukrainian security official said 41 planes on 4 bases were hit, which Reuters could not verify, but the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed aircraft were damaged and set on fire. It said no casualties were reported, and some of the individuals involved in the attacks were detained. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the operation.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки.
Greetings, dear Ukrainian men and women. I just heard the report by Chief of Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuka. A brilliant operation was conducted on the enemy's territory, exclusively against military targets, against equipment that was used to deliver strikes at Ukraine. Very tangible losses by Russia, and absolutely just losses which they deserved.
Справедливі. Заслужені їхні втрати.
The Ukrainian security officials said explosive-laden drones were hidden inside the roofs of wooden sheds, as seen in these photos shared by the Ukrainian Security Service, which Reuters could not verify. The sheds were driven near the Russian bases, and the drones were then activated remotely. Ukraine's long-range strike drones or ballistic missiles don't have the range to reach targets this far away, which required the approach used here. Zelensky said the operation had taken more than a year and a half to prepare.
There you have it. Don't care who you are. You have to admit that was pretty amazing what they pulled off. It really was. And according to some of the people that I've been talking to, and here we go. And to make it clear, I don't have any like major insider thing, although I do have a couple of people that I'm hoping to have guests appear on the show that do have a lot more insight and way more contacts than I do. Mine are very cursory and low level at best. And the reason I'm saying this is, again, how much is this going to affect them? And now one of the things that's really, really pissed off the Russians is that, look, the Ukrainians could not have pulled this off on their own. They had help. Now, where did that help come from? Was it the CIA, MI6? Probably both. Was it solely during the Biden administration? Or was this going on still during the Trump administration? We don't really know. And apparently there's been some murmurs out there that Trump was not aware of this. In fact, I think there was even a statement to that effect. As we found out, Trump's not real happy when stuff happens behind his back. Personally, I think the fact that Trump has been really absent with all of this is a little bit unsettling. Say what you want about Trump. Go ahead and move myself over here. He is the leader of the country. He's the commander in chief. He needs to be out there in front and on top of this stuff. He's been real good with the whole immigration thing, but I'm not seeing the same here. This is an extremely escalatory move. And by any analysts that I've listened to and I read, and I've been doing this for over 40 years, Ukraine couldn't have pulled this off on their own. There was Western assistance in this, either satellites, CIA, whatever. There was assistance in this to be able to say, hey, go here, go there, do this, do that. Well, at the same time, this obviously makes Trump look really bad, the Trump administration. And again, I've already kind of expressed my sentiments towards, I'm not real pleased with the Trump foreign policy thing. I just don't think that there's anybody. It doesn't seem there's anybody serious when it comes to foreign policy. He's using his business partner there from New York. This is a guy that does like real estate deals and stuff. We're talking about carrying out geopolitical foreign policy on the absolute echelon, top tier scale of anything. So it worries me when I see the Pete Hegseths out there. And even I hate to say this is a girl. My heart goes pitter patter for her. I think she's a doll. I think she's got her mind in the right place. But at the same time, Tulsi, need to hear something. Where are you at on this? How did this get out there? We need a briefing. The people should know. This is important. I don't understand why young people, and not so much young people, but younger people in government that talk about things like nuclear escalatory means so glibly. You're talking about using weapons that, in whatever theater, be it Ukraine, Iran, wherever, they destroy entire cities. One weapon. Millions of people instantly incinerated, gone. And you're putting the entire human species at risk. It's serious, serious stuff. But our foreign policy people don't seem to be treating it that way. Sometimes I feel like Pete Hegseth and some of these people out there are treating it as though they're playing, Call of Duty on a video game. That ain't how this works, man. I would like to see it treated with more gravitas that it has. Is it going to change the war? No. To be honest with you, going kind of back to the live UA map, I look at this. What we're going to watch, and I would ask you, the viewer, when 9/11 took place, for those of you who are alive or old enough to really understand the implication of what took place during that period of time in the United States, did that make people less inclined to want to defend their country or more inclined to defend their country? I don't know about you, but if I can go back and pull the numbers up, you look after 9/11, kids across the country were joining up because, holy shit, we were attacked. We just got bitch slapped. Kids across America were joining up because they wanted to do their part. They wanted to do something back. They weren't going to take it lying down. And the irony of it was, when a person gets attacked like that, it's amazing the solidarity that comes out of moments like that. So again, when we watch Ukraine make these big, bold kind of things, which are honestly, and I know people can complain about it or disagree with me, but it's a PR stunt. Did it do damage to Russia? Absolutely it did. In fact, it was daring, and I'm amazed they pulled it off. My hat's off. Holy shit. But at the same time, is it going to change anything what's going to take place here? Absolutely not. The Russians are willing to endure a level of suffering that Americans just can't even have any concept of. And what is that going to do to the Russians? I would be willing to bet that this event drove up recruitment in Russia. I bet you there's kids out here in the far eastern reaches of Russia that are signing up in droves going, how dare this country here attack us out here? That's just my opinion. We'll see. But anyway, moving real quick, just to let you know, how's the economy going? Well, there you go. When are they going to flatten this curve out, guys? That's the debt. That's the debt in trillions of dollars. Okay, here's 1960, 1970, 1980. So people in my audience, especially here on Kick and stuff, I'm assuming a lot of people play games. We're looking at 1980, 1990 kind of birth area. Uh, Debt was, $2-3 trillion dollars. And of those people who are my age, back then debt was somewhere 400 billion. We're over 23 trillion dollars. That's a problem, don't you think? I mean, I don't care who you are. You can see that that's not a good thing. It's again, it's not a good thing. But anyway, let's go ahead and cruise over here. As I've mentioned before, one of the things that I do spend a lot of time watching is finance. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a cast here soon on, for all of you younger people, and I'm going to say, please, I'm not trying to be glib or anything, but I'm going to say 40 or younger, even 30 or younger. If you're 40, you're probably already screwed. You're fucked. But if you're 30 and younger, how to live thin. And I would love to do an entire podcast, and I'd love to see some interaction, because one of the interesting things that I keep seeing happen so often is young people will say, "Hey, Preston, must be nice, pal. Your farm is paid for." Yeah, it is. And I work my ass off to do it. And I did it doing jobs like slinging parts at an AutoZone. I mean, literally making like 10, well, actually at 10, I think when I started, it was less than $10 an hour. And that wasn't that long ago, until I discovered work at home. And even that is not exactly a high paying job. I had to fight and scratch to be able to get to a place and live in an extremely thin life. Uh, you have to live on the cheap, and it's a skill, and it's something to understand. And anyway, I would like to explore that much more in the future, because for whatever it's worth, I think that I do happen to have some knowledge that might benefit you younger people out there. One, just so you don't fuck up in the same way that I did. You can make your own mistakes. Don't make the ones that I did. I'll tell you what they are. But the economy right now, and this is another thing that I've got some folks that are interested in to come and have a chat here on the podcast. Some reasonably big names. At least people who are people worth following, not the clickbait stuff, not people who are out there, pandering for every click and bite and trying to scrimp. Their lives are already kind of squared away. These are people that you might see occasionally on CNN, MSNBC, Fox, or some of the more highbrow type channels. I'm working on that, and these are the people that kind of I follow. But generally speaking, what's on the horizon soon is pretty ugly. Does this mean that we're going to end up in a 1929 soup lines out there for you see all the black and white images? No, that's not usually how this works. When there's collapse in things like stock markets and the economy really kind of tanks, or do you have to worry about the Hoovervilles and the tent cities showing up? No, because they're already there. We for the past decade, we've seen tent cities. Just go to any town in California. It's sad. Go to Seattle. People living under overpasses and stuff, and tents. They're hopeless, and then they succumb to drug addiction and everything else. It's truly pathetic. It's truly sad. This shouldn't be happening. Society's supposed to get better. Every generation's supposed to be better than the next, but that's not happening. But anyway, go ahead and kill this. I'm going to remove that from stream. and go back to the way it was. Anyway, I have no idea how this turned out on Kick. This is the first attempt to do there. X is kind of really honestly, it's pretty shitty streaming on X because I don't believe my software allows for chat on X, but it should allow it on YouTube. And anyway, hope to see some of you folks sooner. I'm hoping to get Holland back. One of the things that I do want to kind of explore is she's spending a lot of her time and education on kind of the exploitation of women, trafficking, and things of this issue. And I'd like to have a show for that because I think a lot of guys should be aware that outside of just glib cultural stuff, that there's a reason why a lot of women are afraid. And they got reason to be. One thing that got brought to my attention that I didn't even realize was true was Nickelodeon. It's like, what the hell? A lot of the executives and stuff ended up going to prison. Hearing this, it just, I can't get my mind around it. Apparently, Disney has some issues with this stuff. I don't know. It's a serious problem that I would have to let her speak on. She's just spent a lot more time kind of in this environment. I mean, this is part of the reason why she's getting her law degree in this field and going into government and law enforcement and things of this nature for this specific reason. So she's done a lot of research and she's dedicated a lot of her time. To her credit, she's a very dedicated, motivated person. She don't really screw around with this stuff. I know her, the little bit that her and I ever have a conversation. I'm like, look, you're going into the sewer. You're going into the darkest places ever. Why would a young woman that's bright, has the ability of, has everything kind of in their favor, choose to go to some place that's going to be dark, dismal? There is no high paying, big money jobs, and there's nothing at the end of that tunnel but a lot of sadness and grief. And because she believes it. And I don't know, I think that's a pretty powerful thing. So I can't wait to get Holland back on. I'd like to kind of explore that more because personally, gentlemen, I think it would be important to hear it out. And, as I started this whole podcast out with Aristotle, we need to be able to entertain ideas without simply accepting them. And I think it's important that we listen to a lot of ideas. We hear other people's points of view and things. You can disagree. Go into the chat, speak your mind, call me everything in the book. Don't care. I'm right there with you. I'll tussle. But I'm going to listen too, because until we start learning how to listen a little bit better, shit ain't ever going to get better, man. But anyway, I thank you for showing up. I appreciate y'all being here, and take care.